Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Even with the post-COVID downturn, house prices have grown enormously in recent years. In Sydney, the median house price has more than doubled over the last decade and almost doubled in other capital cities, including Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide. It's created an affordability crisis for first home buyers, but the crisis hits particularly hard for essential workers. These are nurses, police, firefighters, teachers, people who can't work from home and need to be near their place of work. Also people that we can't live without. But in many cases, they're entirely priced out of their local market, forced into long commutes, shared accommodation or renting, which comes with its own affordability problems. My guest today runs a fund that aims to help these workers get their foot in the door when it comes to property ownership. Tim Buskens is the Chief Executive Officer of Hope Housing, H-O-P-E, Hope Housing, a not-for-profit shared equity fund manager. Tim, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks very much for having me here, and thanks for that introduction.
So before I jump into how Hope Housing works, how bad is the affordability crisis for essential workers? Because unlike many of us, like myself, who I can work remotely, they can't. So how much does that resonate in terms of affordability?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean. And we have, without doing any marketing, without doing any promotion, 3,000 essential workers in Sydney alone have sought out Hope Housing and are sitting on our waiting list looking for help. If I look at the last census data, Sean, there's 400,000 essential workers in Sydney, of which 75% can't get into home ownership. 75% cannot get into home ownership. And those that are in home ownership, those lucky few that are in home ownership, do you know how long it takes them to get into work? Over an hour on average. That massive issue.
Okay, so let's take a step back. What does Hope Housing do? What's your goal and how do you do it?
Well, I guess as we've sort of set up that introduction, Sean, I mean, really simply, our goal, our mission is to support those essential workers into home ownership close to where they work. So not only are we getting them into homes sooner by supporting them into home ownership, they're actually getting from work back home sooner. We're going to reduce their travel time, enable them into home ownership, put them on the path that we all aspire to. So we've delivered a shared equity solution, which essentially comes alongside the bank and their mortgage and their deposit, and co-invests as a silent partner with the homeowner into a property that they're on title for and they can live in as their own. So how it works, it actually is quite simple. It's no different right now to homeowners that won't go into their bank. In their bank, they apply for their mortgage. The bank determines, and we've got a partner bank, our initial banking partner is Police Bank, a mutual bank in Sydney. The bank determines what the loan will be based on the homeowner's financial criteria, because this is about affordability, not putting people into homes that they can't afford. The bank determines the home mortgage and the financial criteria. And if they can't support that homeowner into the home that they wish to buy, then their bank will pass them on to Hope. Hope will assess them for our criteria. Are they an essential worker? And then with the essential worker, we'll help them find the home close to where they work.
So the shared equity model, let's take a worked example. So let's say the home is, I'm going to say $1 million only because the numbers are a lot easier. It's $1 million and they are passed to Hope Housing. Is it, how much do you take in terms of shared equity? Do you come up with 50% of that to pay that, or how does it work?
Yeah, basically we look up towards 50%. So the homeowner will have their mortgage and their deposit, and then we'll be looking to support them up to 50. So let's take Sophie as an example, a nurse that we recently helped obtain a home close to an inner city hospital where she worked. She already had a mortgage that was approved by one of the big four, one of the four majors, of $630,000. That really not only put her under some financial stress because she was really stretching herself to borrow that amount, it also put her into a purchasing power of around $700K. And $700K in Sydney, particularly in the city, is not going to get Sophie anything.
Mm-hmm.
So when she came to Police Bank, our partner bank, we immediately wanted to make her mortgage more affordable. They reduced it down to 450, reduced her mortgage down to 450. Then with her deposit on top of that, and then with Hope's help, that enabled her to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Kensington for around 930. So they're real numbers. That's a real example in a way that Hope helps. So we come alongside that mortgage and help her into the apartment by reducing her financial commitments.
So in that instance, does Hope Housing pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars upfront to the bank, so the actual mortgage is smaller, or is it something that you're repaying that mortgage along with Sophie?
No, so what happens is the bank has its own mortgage and has its as arranged with Sophie. We all turn up at PEXA when we eventually settle the house or settle the unit in this example.
Yeah.
We pay the vendor, the bank pays their mortgage, and Sophie.
Yep.
So we're part of the transaction at the PEXA. We have a registered charge over the property.
Yes.
So we're there with our security at the transaction, but we're all party to that transaction.
Stay with me, Tim. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Tim Buskens, Chief Executive of Hope Housing. And so at the end, let's say Sophie in 10 years wants to sell that place and it's worth $1 million. There's been no appreciation. Sorry, Sophie, I'm just doing this for ease of numbers. What percentage of the house does she get back, assuming she's paid it off?
Yeah, so whatever our equity share is, we participate in the capital growth on that basis. We don't take any more, we don't take any less. But what we've designed here, and this goes into, Sean, the real part of the Hope system that's superior to other shared equity systems, we've designed it in a way that integrates with that bank mortgage. So as I gave you that example, Sophie's already got headroom from year one. So she's not borrowing as much as one of the four majors would have lent her.
Yeah.
She's borrowing much less. So we're not waiting 10 years for Sophie to sell the place. Sophie has now got the ability every single year, and we've got a process designed for that. Every single year, Sophie can progressively buy us out. We value it at market.
Uh-huh.
We set the price up at market.
Yep.
And gives Sophie the opportunity to step in the home. That's not only great for Sophie, who's increasing her own ownership, it's great to investors who are able to liquidate their position along the way. Now, what we find is most people, particularly in Sophie's example, are generally selling their homes around year 3 to 4 because they always want to upgrade.
Right.
But we don't have to wait for her to sell. In fact, she can, in your example, never sell, but she'll progressively buy us out along the way.
Okay, so who's funding it? So you have family foundations and high net worth individuals, is that right?
That's right. So, in Australian market, when you're starting something new, something really innovative, you've got to find those sources of wealth, sources of capital, the catalytical capital allocators, I call them, that say, hey, this is something we're going to back to really make a difference. And that's really important because they not only get it up and running and get us an ability to launch our pilot, but it also enables us to deliver and prove the track record, show the machinery is working, show that something we're doing now, show that there's the 26 of workers that are giving us the net promoter score of 100, show how they're satisfied with the system, how we integrate with the bank, and show the track record or returns that we're already delivering. And that's why now that we're so happy with what we've done to date, we're opening it up for our next round of investors and taking it to the next level.
So, Tim, in a sense, you have proven, the pilot has proven the theory. So you're open to presumably tens of millions of dollars aid to actually start eating into that 3,000 essential workers who need help with getting a home?
Yeah, well, on the run rate of what we've done to date, that 3,000 represents about a $1.5 billion fund.
Right.
1.5 billion. But, we recognise that, like with any business, we'll look at them, we'll look at that 3,000, we'll make sure that they're all qualified. They all need our help, because, again, it's important that going through the banking system, which is where they start, if they can get in on their own, that's what they should be doing because that's all about home ownership. If they need us, then we will look at look at them to support. So, yeah, there will be an assessment process around that. But yeah, it's a big number.
Well, congratulations, Tim. Thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you once again for having me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. That was Tim Buskens, CEO of Hope Housing. This is the Fear and Greed business interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.